Hello fellow gamers, today I'm going to talk about basic role-playing or BRP. Alright, this is a big honking book, but I really like that. I'm going to go through and talk a little bit about why I think BRP is going to be my perfect RPG, my holy grail, if you will. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that is and why it took me so long to find it. BRP has a kind of history with different RPGs. It's been the engine for Call of Cthulhu, Stormbringer, Pendragon to a lesser extent, and RuneQuest. And there's Superworld, and there's all these other games that have been influenced by it. And it has a nice history to it. It has a pretty big fan base, and people seem to like how it does things. It's basically a giant generic toolkit of optional rules. It just goes through and it gives you all of these options as a GM to run whatever game you like to run. And I like how flexible it is. I like that you can pull off one part of it and the system doesn't fall apart. It has a very rules light center, and you just add layers of complexity on until you find your level, the level of that you like, the level that you can run with. If you like more complex things, then you can add more complex things in. I've stated time and time again, I'm more of a rules light guy, and at its very basis, very foundation, BRP is very, very rules light. I think when they first put out BRP, it was a very small booklet. And just because this book is intimidating to look at and how thick it is, that doesn't mean that you can't run with it. Because it says in the book itself, it's like you don't need all this. This book is so big because it has a wealth of information for different genres. You can run this game with any genre you like. It has everything you need. You don't really need anything else. There are monographs out there that you can buy to flesh out more fantasy or more sci-fi things, but you don't need them. You really can just run anything with this game that you want to. It has like I said, it's just a big toolkit of optional rules, and I love optional rules. I love to be able to pick and choose which ones I want. And for those people who just like to play, by the rules and, have everything laid out for you, this is going to probably disappoint you because it literally just asks you to make your perfect RPG from all the optional rules. I think it's brilliant. I haven't run a BRP game yet, which is kind of disturbing to me. But just going through the rules and just looking to see what they are, I can tell that this game, I can run anything with it. I can genre mash. I can mash up, whatever I want to. If I want to run, like a sci-fi thing with like a Serenity verse, I can do that. If I want to run aliens and a horror aliens, I can do that too. I like that I can do anything with it. In the past, I've always been kind of scared of generic games, and I just don't care for them. I like games that are, okay, this game's fantasy, this game's sci-fi, and that's it. I'm not dealing with any of that generic crap. And I don't know why I thought that before. I don't know. I guess it was just the way I was. I'm not really sure. But I think this is going to be a multi-part video because I'm going to ramble a lot. I can tell already. The game has 7 or 8 stats because education is an optional stat depending on what kind of genre you want. If you want to run a more modern day campaign with someone who actually goes to college, then education might be important. But you can use intelligence, and I just like to use the basic 7 that are listed, and they're your pretty basic stats. I'm not even going to go over them. There's also a big list of skills, and somebody might be intimidated by that. But don't be afraid to add skills that you find missing, if there are any missing. And don't be afraid to combine skills. I like to kind of combine my skill lists, especially when there's lots of them. And I'll just put an and in the middle of them. So for instance, there's 2 skills, hide and stealth. I just made that one skill, hide and stealth. You just put a little and in between the 2 words, and you've just combined 2 skills. And there's a lot that a lot of skills that are in there to fit all genres. So if you run a fantasy game, you're not going to need as many, like you're not going to need science really at all. But if you're running a more modern game or a sci-fi game, science plays a bigger role. So there's a lot of skills that you can just like kind of like prune right off, just cut through them, and if you don't think that they're necessary, just put a big slash through them and go to the next one and see what you want. See what you want in your game. And don't be afraid to make up your own skills. At its very basis, it's very simple. You just have a skill, and it has a percentage, and you roll under it. And if it's easier, then you roll under a larger percentage. It's very elegant. It's very intuitive. That's the word that I want to use. It is a very intuitive system. And I think those people that are not really ingrained in the RPG community would have a very easy time sitting down and playing a BRP game. All they're really going to have on the character sheet is, some details about their background and what they are, some stats and some skills, and maybe some equipment. And that's really it. And for someone to look at their character sheet and see a percentage, firearms, 70% chance, they're going to they just know that they're pretty good at that. And I think it's very nice that I can go through and tell people, okay, well, what's your percentage? Okay, well, then you have a 65% chance if that's what is listed on your character sheet. And I just think people get it. I don't know. The first time that I played a Call of Cthulhu game, which uses basic BRP engine in the game, it just struck me as a beautiful thing. It wasn't very complex, and you increase your skill as you use them. If you use your skills in difficult situations, under stress, because I know the bad thing about the game is called I don't know really what it's called, but people basically try to say, well, I used this skill in a difficult situation, and it really wasn't. So as a GM, you kind of have to watch out for that. But it's very simple. It's like if you use a skill and it's kind of difficult, then you have a chance of improving that skill. And it doesn't really have levels, and I just, there's so much about this game that it just jumps off the page at me. It just screams that I should love this game. And I'm not going to use all the optional rules. I'm just not, because like I said, I like more of a pruned down, rules light kind of game. But I love that it's an option for me, that if later on I'm like, you know what, I need a little bit more crunch for whatever reason, or my players want a little bit more crunch, because that's usually the case, then I can just add more optional rules in. I know I'm babbling like a fanboy right now for someone that's only played Call of Cthulhu a couple times, but reading through this game, it screams to run games that like science fantasy games. Like you can mix magic and technology, or you can mix whatever your little heart desires. You can make, and you don't have to do a lot of work to do it, because it's all in there. It's all in the pages of this book. You want cars, you want guns, you want magic, you want mutations, you want it's great. But don't be afraid to combine skills or cut skills, or it's your game. And I love companies, I love games that let the GM be flexible. They let the GM pick and choose what he likes, pick and choose what fits his GMing style, and make the game to whatever fits your group. So I don't know. That's only like the first page of notes I have. So, but just another nice thing about the skills is that there's an option to have the skills based off of stats, but you don't have to. You can just use the base skill chance that's listed for each skill. So there's less bookkeeping. There's less, okay, I improved my stats, so now I have to go through and change all of my skills. You're less of an accountant, which is nice. I always hated, raising my stats in games like Rolemaster and even Harp, even though I like Harp. And even in D&D, you raise your stats, you have to you change all your skills. In this game, you don't have to. There's an optional rule to be able to do that, but I like it at its core. So I'm going to go into several videos with this, I can tell. But check me out in the next BRP video.